in the ninth. One out away from another sweep of Toronto. That's all that's happened in the series between these two for some time. Fly ball into left. Duran will make the catch, and the Red Sox sweep the Blue Jays. They win it 7-3, and that's 5 in a row for Boston. Sox on their way to Cincinnati. A very happy flight coming up.
Another combination of speed and power here tonight. A couple of home runs, 5 bags, 6 bags on the night. And, Brian Bello had a lot of traffic on the bases early on. He was able to limit the damage, ended up going 6. Something to build on for Bello, and this bullpen keeps it going as well. This is a nice little run here for the Boston Red Sox.
I'm with Lou. I agree with Lou Merloni. Nice little run here for the Boston Red Sox. And now I'm going to give you the particulars on the standings as to what it all means, because the Red Sox, dare I say, the Red Sox are in it. They are in it. And again, I said to you a while back that up until something changes, up until the Red Sox become a factor in the American League again, and up until they become a contender for the playoffs, that we're really going to talk about the plight of the franchise, the dilemma, the state of the Red Sox, where they are, who you blame, what your level of hope is, all of those things. And yet now, did you know, if you look at the wild card standings, the Red Sox are now 1 game out of the final wild card spot. They are 1 game behind the Minnesota Twins, and they are only a half game behind the Kansas City Royals for the second wild card spot. In other words, Baltimore right now is the leader for that first wild card spot. The next 2 are up for grabs. Kansas City, Minnesota, Boston are the 3 favorites for 2 spots. And in fact, there's a gap on both sides of those. Tampa Bay is 4 games behind the Red Sox in the standings. So the point is, if the Red Sox, based on today's standings, if the Red Sox can finish ahead of the Minnesota Twins or Kansas City Royals this season, they will be in the postseason. Think of that. They will be in the postseason if that happens. So here's where I want to begin. 617-779-0985. They've won 5 in a row. They're 1 game out. Last week, they beat both Philadelphia and New York. This week, they swept Toronto. You add all that up, and it's 7-2 in the last 9 games. It's actually 8-2 in the last 10 if you go back to the finale in Chicago against the White Sox. So now here's my question. Do you believe yet? Do you believe? And if not, why not? And the reason I ask you that second question is because I think it's important. Because I think a lot of people get this wrong. And I hear people say, I'm not going to watch. I don't believe in the Red Sox. I'm not going to give ownership my money anymore. And they go on and on and on, give you a list of reasons. One of the more common ones I hear all the time is, I'm not going to watch. I don't find them entertaining. They don't have any stars. No stars on the team. A lot of people tell me that's a big reason for it. I think there is another reason you don't believe. I just don't know whether you realize what it is. So I'll get to that, but I do want to take your phone calls because dare I tell you that the Red Sox in the last 10 days have been a pretty entertaining product. They have. It starts with the winning, as we all know. When you win, it matters, and all of a sudden, guys who aren't necessarily superstars become a little more interesting. Jarren Duran, for example. Tyler Milliken wants him in the All-Star game. He's not alone. And he told me something today, listening to the Midday Show, that I did not know until I looked it up. Did you know that Jarren Duran ranks 8th in the majors in WAR? 8th. Now, those of you on the older side of the demo are going to hear that and say, yeah, what the hell is WAR? But those of you on the younger side who understand what the metric means are going to look at that and say, really? Wow, Jarren Duran has been more valuable than all but 7 players in baseball in terms of who could replace him in the lineup and what he's given to the Red Sox? And the answer is yes. And you also know that Ceddanne Rafaela has been as hot as you will ever see a player get, and that Rafaela, aside from having game-winning hits and things of the like, also runs the bases, plays defense, but he's an exciting player to watch when he's on top of his game. True. David Hamilton, I think he's 19 for 20 in stolen bases now. Is that true? 19 of 20 in stolen bases. Hamilton just continues to hit.
It's actually 20 of 21.
Okay, 20 of 21. So again, I come back to, I'm just giving you the math. And let me just tell you up front, I'm not accusing you of anything because I'm not sure I believe either. But the question I have for you again, do you believe yet? At what point will you believe, and why or why not? I'm just trying to get to the heart of the matter as to what it is about the Red Sox that turns you off. Because at the moment, they're an entertaining product. They're playing hard. Alex Cora said in the last week, we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, but you know what? We're going to play hard. We're going to make people fight. This is who we are. It's a good brand of baseball. He might not be wrong. He might be right. What you're getting right now is a pretty good product, and the results are good. So I come back to the question. Do you believe? If not, why not? I also want to get to Jarren Duran and his all-star candidacy, if we can call it that. I do want to touch on Brayan Bello. And we'll take your phone calls throughout the hour as well. 617-779-0985. I already see a few of you lined up. And I tell you, as always, that if you want to talk baseball, now is your chance. Because, dare I say, the Red Sox are the only show in town for a while now. It's going to remain that way. We'll have things along the way. The NHL draft, the NBA draft. Certainly there'll be lots to talk about in football, as always. But the Red Sox are going to be it in terms of actual games for a little while. So many of you are going to start watching, whether you like it or not, because you like sports. Last night's television rating was noticeably higher than the other ratings this year. When I say noticeably, I don't mean that they're skyrocketing, but they're higher. They've definitely gone up a tick because, frankly, there's no competition, all of which is good. But I want to hear from you. We'll kick it off tonight with my buddy Dean in Shrewsbury. Dean, what do you got?
Hey, I think the Red Sox should go for starting pitching for one of these teams that are in the luxury tax and look to be out of it. I'm specifically looking at the Houston Astros, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Texas Rangers. Any of them could decide to blow it up. Particularly, I'm looking at Framber Valdez, who's only signed through this year and arbitration eligible next year. And
Dean, I'm going to stop you for 1 second because I don't want to go through all the names of all the guys who could be available. But let me ask you this. Why do you want pitching over offense when their pitching has been the strength of the team all year long? Go ahead.
Because I don't think Cooper Criswell's cut out to be a starter, and I think that we could use somebody in the middle of the rotation to eat up some innings. And there's always a chance of an injury, especially to starting pitching. So that's where you got to go. Okay,
and you're not wrong. Look, we all know that you can never have enough of it. There are injuries with pitchers. The performance can be inconsistent. I would tell you overall that whether it's Andrew Bailey or the development of Tanner Houck or the fact that the bullpen is deeper now and Cora's ability to navigate his way through that, the way Kenley Jansen's throwing the ball, Liam Hendriks coming back, I feel pretty good about the pitching staff right now. I do, and I don't love Bello, by the way. Bello, to me, has been one of the negatives of this season. We haven't seen the jump in his development that a lot of people wanted to see. I'm not telling you that Bello sucks. I'm just telling you that I haven't seen the jump that Bello should be able to make. And still, their pitching is among the best in the game. I want a bat. I want a right-handed bat to go between Devers and Casas. That's what I want. If the Red Sox are going to add something, which in and of itself is a question, because there's no guarantee they will, but if they are going to add, I'd rather have a bat. Charles in Connecticut. Charles, go ahead.
Hey, Tony. Glad to be on the show. You know, last year this team was brutal to watch. I'm a serious baseball fan. I watch Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. It was so bad last year. Every night there was at least two players playing a position they never played before. But this year, you just mentioned it, their bullpen is deep. Their starting pitchers last year went 3 innings. The bullpen was shot by the middle of the season. They've got much better starting pitching. And I'll tell you, this Rafaela player is anybody who's just starting to watch this team, that kid can play. He can play defense. He runs the bases. And I think he's leading the team in RBIs.
Charles, do you believe?
You got to watch this team.
Charles, do you believe?
I definitely believe. I don't think they're going to win the World Series, but they definitely could be in the playoffs. And if they get a bat like you just mentioned, they're going to go somewhere. But I definitely believe. The only player that just I can't understand why.
Okay, I'm going to let you go. Let me stop you there just because I want to try to get to as many people as I can. I'm interested in knowing if you believe. And look, again, if you like the players that they have, then that's an easy answer. Honestly, I'm a little more interested in the people who don't believe. I want to know why. I want to know why you don't believe. You don't think they have the talent? Like, is that it? You don't think they have the pitching? Because their pitching has been tremendous. Again, I'm just giving you what the actual numbers are. Okay, we just had the caller tell us there that, the bullpen is deep, which is true. The Red Sox right now in ERA in all of baseball rank 5th. 5th in the entire majors in ERA. And if we're going to talk about starters ERA, they rank 6th. So the starters overall have been pretty good. You're worried about how deep they go into games, and that's a legitimate concern. 16th, but it's average. Last year, I think they were among the worst in terms of starters innings. So you can say, well, there's a certain strain that's being put on the bullpen. That might be true, but I do think that what the caller said is right, that it's a deep bullpen. So if we want to talk about relief ERA, the Red Sox are 7th. So there's a lot to look at, and we're talking about big samples now. We've played, or they have played, how many games is it, Jimmy Stewart? They're 5 games over. They are 40 and 37. We're talking about half a season. 40 and 35. It's not a small number anymore. So I'm just eager. If you don't believe, I want to know why. And I'll give you what my answer is as to why you don't believe. And maybe it's a little bit of a manipulation, but I'll tell you why I think you really don't believe when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony.
That was Tyler Milliken on the Midday Show with Zolak and Bertrand. Tom Morgan, producer, also chiming in there. You might have heard Tim McBone in the background. Tyler's not wrong. I looked this up today. I didn't realize it myself. Tyler's not wrong, and this does relate to why you do or do not believe in the Red Sox. Okay? Jarren Duran ranks 5th in the American League in WAR. Now, I said this earlier in the day on the Felger and Mass show. Those of you who are in the older demographic are going to sit there and say, WAR? What the hell is WAR? And I'm going to tell you that it is a all-encompassing metric that is used to assess your overall value to your team. Okay, Jarren Duran is 5th in the American League, 8th in baseball, 1 spot behind Mookie Betts. That's where he ranks. So those are just the numbers. I like to go by the eyeball test. I wouldn't put Duran that high, but he's played well. And among outfielders, he's 3rd. So let me just give you the top 5 players in the American League in WAR so far this year, which assesses these players on all of their abilities. Offense, defense, base running, speed, all of that. Aaron Judge is number 1. Gunnar Henderson, shortstop with Baltimore, who's a stud, number 2. Juan Soto, maybe the best hitter in the game, also with the Yankees, 3rd. Bobby Witt Jr., shortstop, Kansas City, one of the best young players in the game, 4th. Jarren Duran is 5th. Okay, so Jarren Duran up there with superstars. But I don't look at him that way, and neither do you. And if you still don't believe in the Red Sox, there's a reason. I'm going to give you my what I think is the reason. But first, let me take a couple of your calls. Frank in the car. Frank, go ahead.
Hey, Tony, I don't believe in the Red Sox. I think the team is much better defensively than it was last year. The starting pitching has been riddled with injuries, and they're much better. Slowed down a little bit here in the last month or so, but the bats are coming hot. But I don't trust Breslow and the ownership to invest. They're going to trade Kenley Jansen when their biggest weakness last year was the bullpen and errors. The team has a shot to make the playoffs in the wild card, and then they'll be back in the national conversation with Jarren Duran. Like, I don't care about the All-Star game. No one does. But why wouldn't you try to find and plug some holes and develop this team with the team that you have?
Yeah, Frank, I understand what you're saying, and so you just said, but I think you're getting to the crux of it. You said you don't trust ownership and you don't trust Craig Breslow. You don't trust them. Okay, so you don't believe, and you're getting to the heart of it because I think this is the real reason. Brian in L.A., go ahead. Brian, what do you got?
Tony, I think the biggest issue is no engagement. I was a guy that slept on Lansdowne Street. I'm 40 years old. I slept on Lansdowne Street from 2004 to whenever. Moved out to L.A., bought the MLB package, watched the Sox, and then they just deteriorated. And I've got YouTube TV. I can't get a Nest app for $300 right now.
Okay, so Brian, let me just stop you for 1 second. So you're saying it's too expensive? Is that the deal? Or when you say no engagement, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's not the cost, no cost, but they're not. There's no effort from the team to give us a product on the field and give us a product to watch on TV.
Okay.
I have YouTube TV. I should be able to watch the Sox game. I couldn't tell you who Jarren Duran was if I bumped into him in the hallway.
Okay,
I have no idea.
Okay, so again, you say so you're going back to ownership. They're not making it easier for you to watch. They're not giving you necessarily a good product. So you say engagement, but you're throwing it back on ownership and management, which I get. Jay and Bolton, what about you? What do you got?
Yeah, Tony. I mean, I don't believe because they don't believe. How many years in a row are we going to be 1, 2, 3 games out of the wild card going into the summer, the trade deadline, and we don't do anything? If anything, subtract from the team or not at the right pieces. So, how can I believe or want to go or trust this team if they don't believe themselves to add the right pieces? Lastly, I will say...
Jay, I'm going to stop you there. That's the reason. That's the reason. Jimmy Stewart and I were talking about this before the show began today. I can't tell you how many people call this program and say to me, well, there are no stars. Why would I watch? There were no stars on the team. But then we have a caller a couple of calls ago and say, this kid Raphael is dynamic. He is. It's fun to watch. Jarren Duran, whose game I don't love, but I will say this. In the last 2 years, his game has turned around like no one I've ever seen. Jarren Duran 2 years ago did not belong in the big leagues, which was an indictment on the Red Sox for putting him there. Okay, they developed him in the big leagues, which in this market is inexcusable. That's not Jarren Duran's fault. That was their fault. So Jarren Duran became something of a poster boy and a poster child. And frankly, do you remember in Kansas City when he was lashing out at the fans in the crowd, arguing with the fans? Because he was under pressure. He was failing. He wasn't ready. It was a bad environment. They put him in a horrible spot. The fact that he is now here and there is even a conversation about him being in the All-Star game is a testament to how much he has endured and turned it around. He's a big league player now. Now, would I personally put him in the All-Star game? No, but I'm a dink when it comes to this stuff. To me, I don't put anybody in the Hall of Fame unless they're the elite of the elite. I think the All-Stars should be Trout and Ohtani and Devers, and give me the guys who are studs. I want 20 studs playing in the All-Star game. That's what I want. I don't think he's one of the top 20 players in the game. So you see where I'm coming from on that. But the caller nailed it. The reason why you don't believe is because the Red Sox don't believe. And I'm not talking about the guys in uniform. They can get you to believe in spite of the ownership and the management. And I would say in the last 10 days, they've done a pretty damn good job of it. The players have. But how do the Red Sox honestly believe, and this has always been my big complaint with them, they sit there and go, well, you know, we need better instruction. With better instruction, we think we can win 8 or 9 more games. Is that the reason why all of a sudden they're playing better? Because the instruction's been better? Or has Jarren Duran matured? Have they tapped into Tanner Houck's ability finally? And that one might be through some instruction and pitch selection. Craig Breslow's done a good job with the staff. And I say Breslow, it's really Andrew Bailey. But nonetheless, the new administration has been able to tap into some of the ability of the pitchers. They've done that. They couldn't do it under Chaim Bloom. They're doing it now. The pitching program is working. Good. Because Tanner Houck was a first-round pick. But this ownership and this management did not go out and sign pitching during the offseason when they clearly needed it. They did not extend themselves for a right-handed bat. So they might sit here and say, we think we're weak. See, we thought we were going to be pretty good. Well, if that's true, then why didn't you go get some help during the winter and maybe make a run at it? And you know what the real reason is? Because they didn't think it was going to be very good. In fact, there were people behind the scenes telling members of the media, we're going to be okay. It might not be this year. They were telling members of the media that over the winter. So I don't understand why the Red Sox then go into press conferences and try to sell you some sort of a bull crap when their actions belie their words. Their actions will tell you whether they believe. In 2007, when they thought they were ready and they had traded for Josh Beckett already the year before, they went out and signed Matsuzaka and J.D. Drew and Julio Lugo. When they thought they could win in 2016, 17, and 18 in that area, they signed David Price and traded for Chris Sale. They signed J.D. Martinez. They made aggressive moves that because they believed they could win. And because they believed, you believed. So the thing that frustrates me is they want to blame the media. You're poisoning how the fans think. The fans don't need us to poison how they think. You don't need that out there. You can see it on your own. You know when they're putting in an honest effort and when they're not. Martin in Texas. Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, Tony. I just wanted to say that I don't think that they'll have the gall to acquire what they need at the deadline, and that's mostly a right-handed bat. And so far, the best one that's going to be available that a lot of people are speculating about is Luis Robert because he has a few years of control on a bargain deal. But they'd have to give up someone like Roman Anthony to do that, and I still think that Breslow and co. just don't have the nuts to be able to do that. I don't know if I can say that or not, but they just don't have it.
Nope, you can say it. And Martin, I would agree with you right now. They don't have the nuts. They don't have the balls. And they don't have the gumption either at this stage. Now, look, again, we can debate this, whether or not you think the Red Sox are ready. But if they start overachieving, and this is why, this is the beauty of this trading deadline now, this is going to be a litmus test. Conveniently enough, Craig Breslow has come out and said, well, you know, at the deadline, you generally get to pick away. You either have to add or you subtract. You really can't straddle that line. Which, interestingly enough, is the exact opposite of what Chaim Bloom was saying a year ago. Chaim Bloom was saying, no, you really can do both. We're looking at moves that can do both, which is another plate full of bullcrap. And the Red Sox have been good at feeding you bullcrap over the last 4 or 5 years. So now they're going to have to pick a side. So that is going to be the beauty of this deadline. If you're a fan, and even if you're not, even if you're just someone who likes a good story, the good story this year is that this team has a terrific June, plays well into July, comes out of the All-Star break, and is still playing well. Then all of a sudden, the fans and the numbers suggest the fans should believe. And the ownership is going to sit there and say, well, we still don't believe because the projections that we ran before the season say that we're overachieving. We think this is going to come back down to earth. So now you're rooting for your team to lose. Let's see what they do with this deadline. I can't emphasize this enough. Let's see what they do. What if they play well? What if Rafaela keeps hitting and all of a sudden he's hitting 280 and his OPS is 760? And he's playing great defense and he can run, and Duran's still the player he is, and Wilyer Abreu comes back, and Tristan Casas comes back, and the pitching is still good, and then all of a sudden they're beating good teams, which is what has happened in the last 10 days. Blue Jays notwithstanding, that team has had problems for years. But even so, let's see what they do. Put your money where your mouth is. Because if they get to the deadline and the team's in it, and then they do nothing, how could they possibly look at you with a straight face and tell you that they believe? How can they possibly do that? This is why you don't believe, because you don't believe in them, because they don't believe. That's why. Kevin Majori's got your headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
over the 400-foot mark and up there on the bridge for his 6th home run. And the Red Sox are back in front.
433.
On a bad team. It just,
Duran had 8 home runs, Tony.
last year?
Yeah, in 102 games.
It was. Oh, he got hurt. Right, that's what it was. He got hurt. So this year he's got 6. He's got 10 triples, which leads the league. So it's really about the extra base hits. You know, people say he doesn't have power. This guy doesn't have power. Power isn't just home runs. It's extra base hits. So that's 37 extra base hits. That's pretty good. His slugging is .468. Last year was .482. 34 doubles. So, and it can be doubles power. You just don't want a punch and Judy hitter, as the expression goes. So that home run was a smash. Like, they've redone I was going to call it the Sky Dome, the Rogers Center. But that area where he hit the home run last night was where the restaurant used to be. You know, you'd see some bombs up there. That was a freaking smash. When Duran catches him, he's got real power. Now, again, he hits a lot of line drives. What he doesn't necessarily have is the launch angle, which doesn't bother me. Hits the ball more on a line, which apparently is frowned upon by the analysts. I suppose it could lead to more strikeouts, but they don't care. They just want the home runs. For the viewer, the way Jarren Duran's playing now is better to watch. Mike, it says in Massachusetts. That's pretty broad. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I've been out in Westminster, so I'm way out in Massachusetts. But I wanted to touch base with you because it's amazing that we are essentially lined up with the Twins and the Royals for a wild card spot because that's what they've turned us into.
Yep.
They didn't invest in the team. They've turned us into the Twins and the Royals, but yet they still want premium prices to even go see the team or even watch them on TV. So I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, so again, Mike, here's what I come down to, and I understand people's angst. This is the part I don't understand. Let's say they play well. Are you not going to watch because, you know, you don't want to give them their money and, like, you're going to deprive yourself of a good product if they're good? Like that, I don't get that. I'm going to punish myself just because I don't want to accommodate them. Who cares what, at the end of the day, what they get out of it? If they give you a good product, you're happy, win-win. They get what they want, you get what you want. The problem comes when you don't get what you want and what you deserve, which is a good product and a competitive team. To me, they're hand in hand. Most times you just want the winning. But ideally, you want a winning team that's also entertaining. Okay, that's what you want. And you can define winning team in a lot of different ways. It's not realistic to expect a championship every year. Nobody expects that. Nobody gets them every year. But you should have the chance to win every year. You should have the chance, and it's not always going to be the same percentage of a chance. Some years it's going to be higher, some years it's going to be lower, but it should never be 0, which is what it has felt like for the last few years. And again, 2021 was a little bit different, but you get the idea. So you can talk about the ticket prices, and I get all that. You can still watch the team without going to the ballpark and buying the tickets. And you say, well, I don't want to pay for the app. Okay, don't. I mean, I still subscribe to cable, so I can get it on the app free, and I get it on cable. You know, there's lots of ways to do it that you've always done it in the past. When the product is good, you'll find a way to watch it because you enjoy it, and it's a good product. Chris in Hartford. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call. So the question was, do you believe in the Red Sox? And before I answer that, it really comes down to you. Because about maybe 2.5 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, you wanted to trade Devers. So if you tell me that you want Devers out of Boston and you're going to drive him to the airport, I don't believe. But if you tell me right now that you want to keep Devers at this moment, then I do believe. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Okay, so Chris, what I said at the time was, I said if the Red Sox are going to take this approach where they're not going to commit to winning, then why do they have Devers here? If they want to cut costs, then what is the point of keeping Devers? They should move Devers and rebuild. That's what I said. Okay? So, and you're fair to criticize me for it if you want. You know, again, the landscape with this team is going to change a lot over the coming weeks, months, and years because they are going to have young players come up. This kid, Kyle Teal, that they drafted a couple of years ago, or was it a year ago? When did they draft Kyle Teal? Was it last
year?
Was it last year's draft? This kid could be in AAA in no time at all. Like they moved him up to AA really fast, and now he's ripping it up there. So Kyle Teal could be in AAA before long. And when that happens, now you're a heartbeat away from the big leagues.
Drafted a year ago this month, Tony.
Unbelievable. Like I've even lost track of that. So this kid is on a meteoric rise through the system. So, and I understand. I know what you're saying. Of course, you don't want them to trade Devers. I'm just telling you, keeping Devers alone is not enough. Keeping Devers alone is not enough. They owe you more than that. They have to, if they're going to keep Devers, they got to put pieces around him. Okay, so your subject line said, I'll believe if they don't trade Devers. So that's all it's going to take? To me, I need more than that. Chris in Worcester. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Matt, thanks. And you stole a lot of the thunder because I don't believe because of ownership. But I was going to switch it over because if they give me a product that I'm excited for, of course everybody will buy in, and you won't have your Giants fans there, your Philly fans filling the park and all that. And I was just wondering what your thoughts on that, because if they do have a good product, you won't have all the outside fans filling the park. You'll have Red Sox fans. What do you think?
Yeah, so Chris, I think that comes down to them. And when I say them, I don't mean by them telling you, well, we have some good, exciting young players. Wrong. Now you're feeding me bullcrap. There it is again, putting it on a plate. Give me the fork and the knife. You're feeding me crap. No, you can tell when they're serious by how they act. That's what you can tell that they're serious. Their actions will indicate it. They will go the extra mile to build the roster out. They will go the extra mile to outbid someone for Imanaga with the Cubs. I'm not talking about Yamamoto with the Dodgers, who was $325 million. They wouldn't sign Teoscar Hernandez. They wouldn't extend for him. 2 years and $50 million. If the Red Sox aren't doing that, then what message are they sending to you? See, this is the part I think that they talk out of both sides of their mouths and they try to get it both ways. No, we think we're going to be better than you think. Well, then how come you won't extend yourself for Teoscar Hernandez? Well, that's a bad deal. Or he's not worth it. Or we want to leave the flexibility. So then you don't think you can win. And somehow they think that they just want to avoid saying those words, that they don't believe they can win it. And it's not worth the investment. But they know if they say that, then they're giving that message to you. And what I'm telling you is they're giving you that message either way. Kevin in New Jersey. Kevin, go ahead.
Hey, Maz, listen, I'm going to be a little bit too positive here, but I'm one of the guys that actually, I'm invested, I believe, and you got to love what you're seeing right now. I mean, I'm an out-of-market fan, right? So it's easy for me to watch these games. I watch them on the MLB app. I don't have to pay for that Nesson app, which, from what I hear, is a joke. But you got to be happy with what you see right now. I mean, you think about the last couple of years, all the crap that we saw. We couldn't throw guys out.
Kevin, I'm going to let you go because, again, we've all seen the last couple of years. The last 10 days, the product has been good. 8-2, exciting brand of baseball. Do you know the Red Sox right now lead the American League in steals? They haven't done that since 1935. Now, I'll tell you what I find amusing about this is that the analysts don't necessarily care about steals. The analysts want you to hit the ball out of the ballpark. But the Red Sox have won some games this week with their legs. So how does that work? So what, the Red Sox aren't putting any stock in the steals, even though it's fun to watch? The speed game is fun to watch? So this part confuses me. Is this Cora?
It has to be, Tony. This is a good manager adapting to the roster that he has and trying to win differently because he can't just launch angle everything out of the ballpark.
So this is the part I love. The conflict. Again, Cora is telling him to run. We're going to manufacture runs. We're going to put the ball in play. They had that rally about a month ago where he said, some people don't like it, but this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to win. And in the process, you know what he's going to do? He's going to put them in a tough spot. The deadline's going to come. He's going to look up at the front office and say, okay, we're in it. We're in possession of a spot right now to get into the postseason. Our pitching's been really good. We might actually have a chance. How do you like that? What are you going to... Exactly, Jimmy. Exactly. this is why you should be rooting for this conflict at the deadline.
I can't believe you're rooting for the Red Sox, Tony. What's happened to you?
So this is why you should say, I want to see them be in it on July 31st and see how they handle it. Because that will speak volumes. And it will speak volumes through their actions, not by the bull crap that they're going to try to serve you.
There were teams, the prices were just too high. We couldn't really make a move. I mean, we only have a 20% chance of making the playoffs and winning the World Series is at 2%. So we can't really do anything with the prices that high.
Oh, don't forget, you know what's coming, Jimmy. What's coming is Tristan Casas. That's like a pickup for us because we have an animal a year. Wait till that one comes down the pike because that's what you're going to get. We'll wrap it up with your calls when we come back. really built most of that team. Theo got all the credit. A lot of those players were here from Dan Duquette. Pedro Martinez, Manny Ramirez, Jason Varitek, Derek Lowe. You can go right up and down the lineup.
I think it was
Damon.
12 out of the 25-man roster, Tony, that were Dan Duquette people.
I mean, really? So they all make some contribution. Some. Joe Murray coming up next. He's got you for the balance of the night. Kevin Majori, happy 30th, Kevin. Kevin Majori's 30th birthday. So if you happen to run into Kevin somewhere, be gentle. He's a thin fella. But wish him a happy birthday. Everybody, we'll catch you next time.